But let's talk about this a little bit more now with Lori Turnbull, political analyst. Lori, great to see you again. Thanks for joining us today.
Great to see you too. Thanks for having me.
Chrystia Freeland's messaging that came out with this announcement of the date was something along the lines of unlocking a path to the middle class. What does that say to you about what we might see in this spending plan?
Well, the growing the middle class and helping those who are trying to join it that has been their message since day one, since even before day one, before this government was elected back in 2015. They've been talking about growing the middle class, taking steps that are necessary to, get people to achieve that level of economic security. And of course, COVID didn't help with all of that, because this was something that obviously they didn't have on their horizon for what they thought they were going to be doing. And so I think in a lot of ways they're going to try to go back and sort of reclaim some of that. And this is all in advance of an election that will happen probably next year, and at a time when they're not doing great in the polls against the Conservatives, and they, the NDP are in this deal with the Liberals where they're both, potentially benefiting electorally from the types of things that have come from the deal, but still they run the risk of kind of eating one another's lunch and splitting the progressive vote. And so I think the Liberals are going to try to differentiate themselves and give people something to vote for. And this is going to be alongside other strategies around trying to deter people from voting Conservative, that kind of thing. And so, yeah.
It's interesting, because policy is one thing, but then the politics of it, as you mentioned, we have the Conservatives surging in the polls. We have this Liberal NDP deal on pharmacare. Will there be anything else in this budget to try and entice NDP support, I suppose, is the way I would put it?
Possibly. I mean, at the same time, though, there's a lot of pressure, I think, on Chrystia Freeland for her to show that she is showing some kind of fiscal restraint. And so there are many people, including many of them who, saw themselves within the fold of the Liberal Party, people who would have aligned themselves with people like John Manley, Paul Martin, that right side of the Liberal tent, which was always concerned with financial security and financial responsibility and taking the steps to make sure that the budget was balanced. And so now I think there are eyes on Chrystia Freeland to say, what are you doing on that? And are we going to slow spending? Are we going to balance things before we veer off in a direction that could see more spending? Are we going to get things balanced first? And so as much as the Liberals might be encouraged to try to pivot in a way that would show some kind of, that they're hearing that message. They're hearing from the right wing of the party that used to be, part of the Liberal Party. At the same time, they know they're competing with the NDP. Now, at this point, I think they're also just dealing with a massive voter fatigue issue. And it might not matter, which is not a great message, but it might not make a whole lot of difference what particular things are in the budget. I'm not sure that there's anything that the Liberals can do at this point to really get people to start looking in their direction as a possibility. I'm not sure what they can do to kind of get some voters to come back to them, or whether this is just a point where people are looking elsewhere.
Well, and what I guess, what you're hearing a lot of people say is that in terms of help dealing with the cost of living, housing, rising prices, that's the kind of help that people need right now, but budgets don't always provide things immediately.
They rarely provide things immediately. Budgets are usually larger fiscal pictures that might have some things in them that will trickle out immediately. But for the most part, it's sort of like, what are we going to do for the year? Where are different programs going to take shape over the next year, 2 years, 3 years? It could be that the Liberals use this opportunity to say, here are some things we're going to put in the window for the next number of years if you re-elect us. Because despite the fact that there seems to be a palpable sense of voter fatigue, I'm not sure they're feeling that. It seems to me that they still think that a win the next time or some version of that is possible. And so if they do think that, they might be trying to play a longer game, which could mean some items in this budget that require another term to actually see them through.
Okay. Lori Turnbull, political analyst. Always appreciate the insight. Thank you, Lori.
Thank you. Take care.